Welcome back to the Future Self podcast. Welcome to season 2, episode 7. A calorie deficit doesn't always cause fat loss. Now, you might have clicked onto this episode thinking, what in the fuck is he talking about? This must be some clickbaity bullshit, backing with just no information, going against the community or the industry for the sake of being different. But it's not true. In today's episode, I'm really wanting to bring some light towards a calorie deficit not being the reason that fat loss always happens. Fat loss doesn't always happen because of a calorie deficit for everyone initially. The really important part of this statement is the fact of everyone and initially. On a chemical, scientific level, when we take it to energy balance and energy ratios, a calorie deficit is what causes weight loss on a simple term. You need to ingest less and expend more through movement. But that's not the case for everyone. It's not how it always works. And one thing I really learned as a coach, and one way that I go about it with GL coaching and the clients that I work with, is through a system that not many people know, or they act on it, but they don't act on it directly. They might by chance stumble upon the fact that what they're doing is the right thing for themselves or that individual, but they don't understand the principle that weight loss isn't always caused by a calorie deficit. Now, I'm sure you've seen in the industry, there's posts, videos, the simple factors of you can't lose body fat or weight unless you're in a calorie deficit. It is the number one stated fact in the fitness industry. It is something covered by almost every trainer. It's just that title where you can't go against me type statement being made. It's the fact that it's this simple and this is how it works. And for a majority of people it is, but there's a big portion of people opposed to that where a calorie deficit initially isn't what causes weight loss or fat loss. It's not how things work. So you'll be sitting here looking at me, tuning into this episode going, what the fuck's he talking about? Like, damn, maybe this is where I lose the respect for him and what he knows. So I'm not here to prove it to you. I'm not here to debate a point. I'm here to express a thought. I'm here to share my approach, and I'm here to insight you into a different perspective that not a lot of people know about, or they know about, but they didn't know it was something legit. When it comes to fat loss, it is the basic principle that you need to have an intake of calories being less than what you're expending, what you're outputting, what you're burning and using over the day. This can be manipulated through nutrition itself, through the calories itself, or through your movement. However, there's this portion of fat loss and this introductory period that not everyone knows about, where increasing your calories actually can cause weight loss. It can cause fat loss. Increasing the amount of food you consume can be what allows weight loss to take place. It can be the right number in the equation that actually has you seeing fat loss. So how the fuck does this work out? This doesn't even make sense. Everything I've learned in school or what I've seen online or what I've seen the big fitness influencers post is about eating less, calorie deficit. It's not that fucking hard. And it's not that fucking hard, but you need to understand that there are a portion of people that thrive and kill it from increasing your calories. So I'll break down the science aspect of it. I'll break down how this works. When it comes to those who want to lose weight or decrease their body fat, depending on where they're at, the weight they hold, the body fat percentage they hold, it is a really fucking common situation I see, experience, and coach where they're under consuming calories and they're under moving. They're snacking a lot. The quality of food they're eating is probably pretty average. Average in the sense of it's consistently on the balanced side, the snacks, the takeout, the high cal treats. it's that high frequency of snacking, but it's not the aspect of meals. It's not proper nutritious foods. It's not high protein and satiating based ingredients or the consumption of foods that make you feel full. So the situation is that they're under consuming because of the high frequency of snacking, which leads to their body becoming really efficient. When you understand that humans are an evolution of a species, if we take it back to the primal state, back in caveman times, the point of living was to eat as much as possible and survive. Whenever you had the chance to eat, whether it was back then fucking fruit, veg, or meat, or fat, the point of it was to eat as much as you could because you never knew when your meal was coming. Or at least that's what I've read. And then that's the general consensus of what we know. Caveman times, the point was you needing to eat as much as you could. So then with that, the body still thrives off very similar primal principles. It becomes very efficient at managing your output based on what your intake of food is. Why do you think those who are overweight, or not even overweight, just potentially a high body fat or live a life they don't really want to live, have the tendencies of being lazy or consistently tired? So I'm not adding anyone, but the general idea or the common experience I see is minimal movement, sleeping a lot, things like slouching, taking the lift, not the stairs, parking as close as you can to wherever you need to go. There's that real aspect of just being super efficient. And you might think that it's them being lazy, which there are roles in the fact that choice does play a part in that. But subconsciously, their body is designed and built to be as efficient as possible. When you are wanting to lose weight, you need to be as inefficient as possible. You need your body to be really inefficient. So the efficiency factor is if you're eating 1,000 calories a day, you'll slouch, you'll have sloppy posture, you might choose to sit down over standing, you'll park close to things, you'll be sleeping, you'll be laying, you'll be leaning over. You start to now understand that the body's really efficient, so it's learnt to shut things down, or it's learnt to navigate things in a very smart way. Why do you think a lot of females who underconsume food also lose their period? Because the body has a fact of becoming efficient. It starts to reduce the systems that are active. It starts to decrease the output you're doing. Whether you know this or not, that's what's happening for the most part. So that inefficiency, because of the low consumption of calories you're consuming, leads to less movement, leads to a primal state of storing. Your body is stressed, it's overworked, it's freaked out. It's not, in quotations, sure of when it's going to get its next proper meal. It's being underfueled, which leads to an outcome of undermoving or reducing the amount of movement you do day to day. And that leads to fat gain. Fat is a very useful tool to keep us warm, but also to keep the body energized. It is an energy source. It plays a role in a lot of functions throughout the brain, your hormones and things like that. It's very needed. So that's why the body stores so easily. If you're moving less, whatever you're consuming probably is being stored as fat, regardless if it's 500 calories or 1,000. The body is learning, okay, I'm not getting a consistent intake of food. I need to be very efficient with my movements. I need to output as minimal amount as possible and then store whatever I get. You'll then notice people who have a very well-balanced diet, a very high intake of calories, or a well-ratioed amount of calories for the life they live are probably more active. These are a bit of a generalized grouping that lower cows, efficiency, less movement style of human, and then there's proper intake of food, more active. Why more active? Because you can be. It is not such a drag to be more active when you're fueling your body correctly. So then linking back to the title of this episode, that calorie deficit isn't always what causes weight loss, I just educated you on the fact that if you're under eating and under moving, you're probably gaining more body weight or body fat than anyone else. So a calorie deficit in that situation isn't going to cause weight loss. That's going to cause fucking weight gain. If you're eating 1,000 calories a day and then you drop it, calorie deficit is a decrease. You don't have the education, you don't have the understanding. So you think eating less, I'll lose weight. You then start eating less, you're probably going to gain and store. This is why it's so common in my big fucking weight loss transformations, or even just any decently sized weight loss transformation. And I emphasize the factor of big because the smaller ones between 2 to 10 kilos, usually they're in a fine fueled state. The intake of cows is okay. So we do manipulate calorie deficit and we do manipulate movement. It works based on those principles you hear in every Instagram post and every fucking fitness influencer's statement of a calorie deficit causing weight loss. However, there are so many journeys I've been a part of. Josh is a massive one, 40 kilos. Shannon was a big one, 25 kilos, I'm fairly sure. And then plenty of my recent ones at the moment between the 5 to 15 kilos, they're all losing weight because we're increasing their calories. Now, there's going to be so many people I feel like this episode will piss off because they might not have the understanding that I have, and textbook knowledge is different to experience, and experience of understanding humans and how a human functions. I have 5 years worth of one-to-one experience of how people react, how bodies react, and how different systems work for different individuals. So the individuals I'm working with at the moment and have over the last 3 years have lost weight through increasing their cows. Now, how the fuck does that work out? Calorie deficit causes weight loss. So why does eating more cause weight loss or fat loss? The reason being is you get to a point of a calorie deficit, but you need to build up to it. You need to nurture your body and show it that there's food coming through. When you slowly, in a micro setting, increase your calories, you can then slowly increase your movement. You can become inefficient, in quotations, in an energy setting. You can start to do more things. You'll notice your posture's better. You might take the stairs. You might park further away. You might be expressive in your hand gestures when you're having a conversation. You'll start to notice that, I'm not as sluggish all the time. I have energy. I'm not getting sick all the time. I don't want to lay in bed every single day. So we slowly start to increase the food, which is a surplus. We're starting to put you in a surplus from what you've been in, but that creates a calorie deficit because if we increase your food by, let's just say a number's sake, a point's sake to make this easily understandable. If we increase your food by 5 and that then increases your movement by 8, that's a better situation than decreasing your food by 1 and that decreasing your movement by 2. So it's this really fine line balance between building up your food and maximizing that slow build with the maximization of increasing your output, increasing your level of movement, your cardio, your steps, your NEAT, your daily small gestures, the taking the stairs, the parking further away, the standing up tall. If we can increase your food, subconsciously your body is registering, okay, there's food coming through. I'm not stressed. I'm not worried about when I'll get my next meal. I don't need to store everything I'm consuming. It starts to become inefficient. It starts to burn more calories. Your body starts to burn more because you're increasing, and that then results in you increasing movement more than what we're increasing food. But it's a little bit of psychological manipulation in the sense that on a surface level, it seems like you're going into a surplus, but we're actually creating a calorie deficit, but people just don't know that. I'm working with plenty of girls at the moment who, when we first started, was consuming between 1,000 to 1,200 calories. A lot of them are up around the 1,800 to 2,200 calories now. They're getting their period back. Their hormones are regulating better. Their moods are more stable. They're going on more walks. They're doing more things. Doesn't really make sense, right? It doesn't make sense. Increasing food, losing weight, things are coming back. What the fuck? Well, like I said, it's all on a primal setting. If we all take it back to how life used to work fucking tens of thousands of years ago, that's how things were. If you were a tribe that were consistently having food all the time, you're probably going to be a more energetic and thriving tribe. Versus if you were ones struggling, not consistently seeing food, you're probably very inefficient. You're probably very efficient in the sense of lazy, sluggish, doing less, and storing a lot of body fat. So then I've thrown quite a few different dynamics and quite a few words at you. So to sum it up in a bit of a more straightforward light, a calorie deficit is what causes weight loss and fat loss, but not always initially on the surface level. We are always building towards a calorie deficit underneath, but on the surface, increasing your food for the most part, for a lot of people, could be what sees you losing weight and losing body fat better. The biggest thing with fat loss too and a long-term progressive journey is in the words long-term. It's something you need to find systems and ways of doing long-term. If you're eating 1,500 calories and you're dropped to 1,300, you might lose body fat and body weight, but you will get yourself to a position where your body becomes so efficient that you stop losing weight and it starts having an adverse reverse effect and you start gaining. And then everyone gets so confused. Well, I'm moving so much and I'm eating so little. Why am I losing weight? And that's why, because you're eating too fucking little. Your body is becoming way too efficient. You're in a situation of fucked. Essentially, you need to build your food back up and you need to move more. Every single journey I work with, it's always individual and one-to-one, and I always consider a ridiculous range of factors, but I always am biased to the direction of more food, more movement compared to less food, less movement. Not everyone has that luxury. Not everyone has the structure in their week to be able to move so much or do more than what they're doing now. So you need to then individualize it and go the route of reducing calories or reducing the intake. But for majority of people who work a 40-hour week, there's more flexibility and free time in their week. Increasing your food slowly whilst increasing your movement can lead to an outcome of fat loss and weight loss on a longer term scale. The more food you can build yourself up to, the more freedom and the more range of movement and tools you have. If I was working with someone in an unrealistic situation who didn't work and I could get them doing 16,000 steps a day, 200 minutes of movement and have them on 2,500 calories, let's just say in a female sense, that gives us so much freedom to decrease without it being stupid and over the top. That gives us the freedom and ability to decrease down to 2,000 and that solely create the calorie deficit because we've built your movement and your food up together. It's now aligned and adjusted to maintain your body weight. So now we can manipulate both to lead to a weight loss, fat loss outcome. Why do you think a lot of coaches have clients who are tired, fucking depressed, hating the gym, not seeing change, not seeing fat loss? It's because the intake of cows they're programmed, the lack of education and understanding on how the science behind a calorie deficit works or the individualizing situation that people probably need you to build it up. So many coaches program 1,200 calories, 1,300, 1,400, and not in the sense of touching on those numbers, because you might have to touch on those numbers. You might have to pull back at times, in the sense that they were probably eating 1,700 and they've dumped a fucking 200 to 300 calorie deficit on their client, hoping that they'll lose weight, getting them to do a bunch of HIIT sessions, and it's not working out. Now, I can't be too harsh on those coaches because that's beginner programming, and I was there at a point in time, and they might not be educated on nutrition and they might not have the understanding of how it all works. But you need to understand that a calorie deficit isn't the be all and end all of weight loss always initially. Sometimes building your calories up is what sees more fucking fat loss and weight loss long term than anything else. If you're someone who isn't happy with your body weight or your body fat and you're not in a position you love in your lifestyle overall, just track a day. Just track a day of food. This isn't a podcast or an episode to say how things are for every single person. There's always going to be outliers. There's always going to be a bunch of people that this doesn't apply to. You can't take this podcast and go, well, guys said I need to eat more. I'll lose fat then. That's not it. I'm introducing you to a group of people who are under consuming an energy intake and under outputting a factor of burning calories. So they're storing fat. Track a day and see. If you're someone who's 1200 and under, you're probably in that category. If you're someone who's eating a lot of takeout, a lot of snacks, and you're in the 25 fucking 3,000 range, 3,500 plus, that doesn't apply to you. You need to rein in your food and you need to increase your output of movement. But it's so common. I would dare say 7 out of 10 journeys that I take on that are lifestyle, fat loss, or weight loss focused all thrive in a situation of increasing calories slowly and increasing their movement. And working with, I'll give you an example just so I can put a bit of backing behind the claims I'm making or the statements I'm saying. I'm working with a middle-aged young woman at the moment who, when we started together, was eating 1,200 calories and doing under 8,000 steps and fuck all cardio over the week. We've now, over the course of weeks to months, built up to 2,000 calories on a daily average intake. They're now doing 10 to 12,000 steps and 200 minutes of cardio and 10 kilos down. How the fuck does that work? Because when we started, they were under-fueling their body, underworking. Their body was so efficient. They were living a very under-moved and under-active lifestyle, and we've now flipped that around. I've worked with a 40-kilo weight loss male, started at 900 calories, built up to 2,000, was doing fuck all amount of steps and cardio before we started and built it up. These are your tools to work with. These are the tools you use. It is increasing your food as well as increasing your movement. And a big portion of this is sometimes increasing the food to the point where you're not in a calorie deficit, but it's motivating, it's giving you energy, it's fueling your lifestyle to want to move more, get more steps, do more activity. That might be beneficial for a few weeks. That might serve its purpose. Yes, you might not see big weight loss on the scales, or you might not see a reduction in your body fat in photos, but if more food is psychologically allowing you to enjoy movement and it's getting you to move more, that's going to benefit you down the line. That's going to then have you adjusting and adapting to moving more. So then we can pull your calories back a little bit, put you in a setting of a calorie deficit, and then the weight loss happens. But the weight loss isn't happening from being on fuck all calories. It's happening from moving more, living a more active overall lifestyle. So hopefully from what you first thought when you read the title to what I've introduced you to and expressed in this episode, you understand a different light and view and approach to fat loss. I'm sure this episode will either be brushed off, whatever, no big deal, or it's going to be met with a bit of clashback and a little bit of friction, and that's okay. I have a resume of tens to almost hundreds of journeys that I've coached that back this claim. Not many coaches know about it, and I don't see many coaches understanding the way the programming works. They just think more food, move more, yippee. Or if I can get my client to eat more calories and they lose weight, it seems like I'm a good coach. And they don't understand the dynamic behind it, that the science is just primal. It's just taking us back to the ages where things were more simple. Your body still runs off a relatively similar function nowadays. If you're someone under eating, you need to check the lifestyle you're living. If you're someone overeating, you need to check the lifestyle you're living. I just don't want people to think that instantly eating less is the way to losing fat, because the vulnerability of people who don't understand nutrition or a healthy lifestyle or the fitness, nutrition style of education, they're fucking vulnerable on the information they receive. So if someone's eating 1,000 calories and they're not loving how they look and they're told that a calorie deficit causes weight loss, so they put themselves on 800, they're probably going to really fuck things up big time. And I hate that. You need to expand your understanding and education. You need to learn about food. The lack of understanding and education based around food, the literal thing that allows us to live, one of the most basic needs that every human has, no one understands it, or the understanding around it is just so fucking surface level, old school bullshit that just isn't how things really are. So expose yourself to material, expose yourself to the fact of new education and perspectives and different systems. But I'm still standing strong in the claim that a calorie deficit is not what causes weight loss initially for every single person. Because it's fucking true. If you're under eating, you can't just reduce your intake and expect to lose weight. That's not how things work. So a calorie deficit is what causes weight loss long term on a general consensus for most people, but not for everyone and not for everyone initially. If you disagree with it, fucking hit me up. Leave a comment. I'd love to read it. If you think what I'm saying isn't true, I will link my social media in the bios. Have a look at my coaching page. Have a look at the journeys. Read the statistics, read the numbers, and that might change your perspective on it. Have a look at my socials. I post about these transformations and lifestyles and progressions all the fucking time. Have a scroll down, down, down. It's been something I've been doing for the last few years. I'm not saying this applies to everyone, and I'm not saying that this is how things work all the time. I'm just inciting you to a different perspective of something that's not covered often, because it can be a little bit more complex than just eating less food. No disrespect to the big fitness influencers and the big people in the industry who just state the basic claim, because they're adhering to a general pop of a lot of people. I'm here for the underdog. I'm here for the person who that's not working for. I'm here for the person who's vulnerable that doesn't have the education. I fucking love you for tuning in. And if you've made it to the end, I appreciate you so much. I appreciate you so, so much. The channel's been growing recently. I've been posting a lot of YouTube shorts, expanding, trying to reach new people and reach a wider audience. If you liked this insight or this different perspective and you want to share it, go for it, because that means the fucking world to me. If you want to like it and you want to subscribe, fucking go for that for me too. The likes are just motive and incentive for content that I can see to be enjoyed. The subscribing is just building a community and expanding the growth of what this channel will one day become. And the sharing just helps this reach more people. But big love to you. Hopefully this gives you a different perspective and some education on a way that's not talked about from every coach, or people are too scared to do different to what the industry standard is saying. But I got you and you got me because you tuned in, and I appreciate you. Keep doing it for the future. Fucking you.